Well, the million-dollar question is, what do you wear on the road to Terminus? Damien Sandow shirt, of course. Sir Owen Disney here, and no worries, I'm not possessed today. At least, I thought I was possessed, or maybe I wasn't. I'm not exactly sure anymore. Like I said, I kind of just blacked out, and all of a sudden I was talking in this normal voice. But a lot of you out there seem to give me props for that performance, if you will, and I assure you, I have no idea what you're talking about. Or do I? So, you remember how I said the last video wasn't your Halloween Horror Nights video, and the video before the last one wasn't your Halloween Horror Nights video that I was promising? Well, you know what? This one isn't. Nah, I'm just kidding. This one is the Halloween Horror Nights video that I've been promising for quite a while now. And I'm going to go through what I know to be true, at least based upon what we're hearing right now. It seems to me that at this very moment, it's pretty certain that most of the lineup that you have heard is probably correct. Now, there obviously are still a couple of things that are up in the air, and a lot of things that could possibly change, but I'm going to go through what I know to be true via what I've heard. So, yes, when you come to speculate about something, you have to look at all the options. You have to look at all the possibilities. And I have done just that. And I've spent most of this afternoon doing just that, watching back former videos, checking videos from other Horror Night Updaters, including the literal Horror Nights Updaters, and trying to get everything in tune in what I want to say in my video. That's the reason why it's taken so long. And you're probably asking yourself, if you're watching for Hollywood content, where's the Hollywood content? Well, you know what? I'm still trying to figure out where everything is, and we are going to be doing a Hollywood video very soon. I'm trying to figure out everything. I know as of this moment, as of what I just read a few minutes ago, that Soap Commercial is not an American Werewolf in London. I have an idea what it could be, and it sounds like Orlando and Hollywood are going to share quite a bit this year, if rumors are to be believed. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to talk about what we hear, what we've heard in our rumors in the last week or so. And HHN rumors have been abound lately, and there has been lists that have been released of the houses, the house locations, as well as the scare zone and the scare zone locations. So, let's delve into that, shall we? Now, let's talk about the scare zones. As of this moment, we have 5 listed scare zones. Now, I said on the video that I talked about what I believe to be the final lineup for the event, that we would be getting between 5 and 7 scare zones. Now, there are listed 5 scare zones. That does not include the Chainsaw Drill Team, and I don't think it necessarily includes something that may or may not be waiting for you when you get out of disaster. But we'll talk about that as we progress. And basically, I listed a lot of locations that will not have any scare zones. They won't necessarily be safe zones, but they won't have anything that is scheduled, if you will. Something that's not going to be on a park map. So, talking about World Expo, I still think the Chainsaw Drill Team could possibly hang out there. If they want to roam, they're more than welcome to. Production Central, it very well could have something in it. I would think they'd miss a golden opportunity. I really thought that was a great way to introduce The Purge, but it sounds like The Purge is going to New York, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And Kid Zone will obviously not have anything as well, because that is the way to get to the Sprung and the Parade building. So we're going to talk about that as we progress in this video. So our scare zones that we're hearing right now, and this is just take everything with a grain of salt. Sea salt, because it's healthier for you. And it tastes better. Anyway, we have The Purge in New York, and it's going to be pretty awesome. I actually just watched a video from HHN Phantom. Shout out to HHN Phantom. Does a lot of really great Hollywood videos. And that video showed the opening ceremony in Hollywood last year featuring The Purge. It was pretty awesome. We heard the Purge siren, and all of a sudden everyone just bum rushed you, fire, and there was a a barker that looked like the main character in the movie, and that was pretty awesome, so I think we're going to get something like that. So, as soon as you turn the corner, you are smack dab in the middle of the purge, and it's going to be awesome. Really looking forward to see how they work that out. And will it go into further New York? Who knows? Well, that's a big area to be in there, so it'd be interesting to see where we go with this. The next scare zone is going to be on Hollywood Boulevard, and it's going to feature monsters from Face Off. And, of course, I'm referring to the sci-fi television series, the reality show, which basically is for the makeup. And they're going to be creatures from the Face Off show, probably promoting this new season coming up. And also, there's going to be a creature that is going to be created just for the event that will definitely be on display as well. Now, a lot of people that are in the know have likened this a lot to 2011's 7 Scare Zone. To me, this sounds a lot like it could be more of a photo opportunity than anything else, and there wouldn't be many actual scares. But I have a feeling I'll probably be proven wrong on that. It's a good possibility. We're going to get scares as we're getting our photos taken with the monsters. Will we see the designers of said monsters? I think that's a probability as well, but I'm not exactly sure because that would mean that they would have to be there every single night. So that's probably something Universal does not have in the budget right now, especially after they spent on all the money into Diagon Alley, which opens on July 8th, which I'm really excited about. Really excited about, even though the fact that it's way later than I thought it would be. And September 17th is a little bit closer to that date than I'd like it to be, so it's probably still going to be crowded, but very excited to be able to go to Diagon Alley. We'll talk about that in an Orlando Universal video sometime down the line. The next scare zone we're hearing was the Voodoo Zone, the New Orleans Voodoo Zone. It's going to have gypsies, it's going to have witches, and it's going to be in Central Park. So, it sounds to me like they could possibly use a lot of the zombie Gras costumes without being zombified, and we could see a lot of different things. Like, we always have a fortune teller every year at Halloween Horror Nights. I think that actually might be a good idea. And if this is a way to get beignets to the event, I know it's a scare zone, but I think that they're missing an opportunity if they don't put a New Orleans-style food and maybe like a Zydeco band, if they want to do that. They can have, like, remnants of zombie Gras, but not exactly zombies per se. I would say that it would be missing an opportunity if they didn't do that. Like, I really want beignets because beignets are phenomenal, and after I just watched Chef a couple weeks ago, I really want beignets right now. And I only can get them at Universal during, in the parks. I only can get them during Mardi Gras, which obviously I cannot be there for. I was there for it 1 year, but only 1 year. And I know what you're saying, oh, and you can get them a City Walk, and my response is I can, but not in the parks. So, yes, there's always that. The other one, of course, is the Sting Alley connection, which is going to be interesting to see. They're actually utilizing Sting Alley this year. It's going to be a Japanese zone, which is going to have geishas that could potentially turn into monsters, demons, the kitsune that I talked about in a previous video. Should be really interesting to see where we go there. It's a very small space, and there's only one way in and one way out, so it could be really interesting to see how they utilize that. Haven't used Sting Alley in quite a while. The other is going to be at the Plaza of the Stars, is going to be the Bloody Masquerade, which sounds more and more like we're going back to 2006 in the Blood Masquerade Scare Zone. And it also sounds like we could be getting a copy of what Hollywood is going to be getting in the literal scare zone that was selected by everyone, the Mask A-Raid, which may possibly be there. Very Victorian. I can see a lot of really, like, creepy music and dancing and bloody costumes. They could be cannibals. Who knows? It's anyone's guess. But that's what we're looking at for scare zones. The scare zone, I think, that is not announced that will probably be the case is I think we're going to see some clowns in Disaster. When you get right outside of the house in Disaster Q, you will walk right into clowns. That makes perfect sense to me. Or, then again, it could be a continuation of The Purge. Who knows? I mean, it's anyone's guess. I do think we see clowns at the event, and I don't think it's just in the house. But we'll talk about that as we progress. So, I made a lot of bold predictions. And like I said, I talked about... When I talked about the scare zones, I mentioned San Francisco, outside of Disaster. I talked about a clown saw drill team, and that would make Heather very happy. Possibly bringing Eddie into the event. Not this year. Maybe next year, potentially. Hollywood and Face Off, that's correct. It sounds like at least. Sting Alley for the geishas, the demons. Very Japanese. That's gonna happen. New York and the Purge. That's gonna happen. Voodoo Gypsy Witches in Central Park. That sounds like it's gonna happen. I talked about World Expo, London Waterfront, Shrek Alley, and Kid Zone, and the last 4 are a no-go unless, like I said, the Chainsaw Drill Team are going to have their marching orders out around Men in Black like they did last year. Just as long as they don't go into Springfield, everything's great. So, let's talk about the fact that we now have code names. We have code names that are officially announced. Now, the code names that we know of right now is we heard a code name of Alter. We heard a code name of Charlie. Now we have some more code names that are coming our way. We have Evac and Synergy, which just got dropped recently. We have Smile, we have Crows, and we have Ritual. So it's really interesting that those names are dropped. Now, there are connections right now, and I'm going to talk about them. So, if you were curious about what's happening in the event and you don't want to be spoiled, my advice is probably not want to watch this part of the video. Maybe fast forward a little bit and I'll talk into some more of the stuff later. And for those of you that are still with us, I'll give you a little time. Okay, I don't want to wait anymore. So, hopefully you fast forwarded if you don't want to know what is almost a guarantee to come to the event this year. So let's talk about our code names. Now, the code name for The Walking Dead was never released. Obviously, there's no need for a code name. It is the no code name needed maze of the year, and that's because everyone knows that it's coming to the event. It was the first reveal of the event. This is the last video I shot a couple days ago. And there was no need for a code name. Now, rumor has it, it's going to go in Soundstage 25. And Soundstage 25 has never been used for Halloween Horror Nights. The reason why is because it is the location of the Dave School. And it's interesting that Dave School is utilizing that area, and I know what you're thinking. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, you know that they're not going to kick them out. Well, it's interesting because apparently there was a student of said Dave School that said something recently to somebody who told somebody else that apparently they were getting a temporary, like, booted out of the soundstage. They were going to be temporarily evacuated from the soundstage. Yes, I didn't mean to do it that way, but that's how it was. It'd be funnier if that was for evac, but it's not. So, that makes me think that this soundstage is going to host The Walking Dead like everyone thinks it's going to, the road to Terminus. Really excited for this house, and like I said, I'm not a Walking Dead guy, I never will be, but I talked to my stepmother today, who is actually going to be joining me for the event. My dad and my stepmother will both be going with me for the... My dad is for the first night, and my stepmother for my first night and my second night when they get there. It's the Thursday and Friday of the second week. And they're both, one's a Walking Dead fan, which is my stepmother, and my dad doesn't like The Walking Dead. It's going to be interesting because, like I said, my dad's not in the minority. He's in the majority here. So, but who knows? It depends on how you look at it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this house. Should be really fun. Now, the other one is Evac. Evac was name dropped recently, and Evac is literally a gameplay mode from a computer game. And yes, Evac is going to go in Soundstage 24, and Evac will definitely be Alien versus Predator. So yes, we're going to, just like I said before in a previous video, it's Alien versus Predator. The Xenomorphs are battling the Predators, and we're stuck in the middle, and it's going to be awesome. Very much looking forward to this house. Should be really fun. I'm not a fan of the movies, but I will say that I like the Alien franchise, but I'm not really big on the AVP movie. I thought both of them were terrible, but I'm willing to give this house a try. Obviously, I'm not a fan of The Walking Dead. I still really liked the house last year, so we'll see if that works out that way. Our next code word is something I did not mention. The code word is Captain. And why is it Captain? Well, Captain to me comes off the fact that we're talking about one man and one man only, and that is Mr. William Shatner. And here's the reason why. The face, the very iconic face of Captain James Tiberius Kirk is very reminiscent, and not just very reminiscent, but a complete and total make and model of the very famous shape mask. That's right, Captain equals out to Halloween finally coming to Universal Orlando and Halloween Horror Nights on this coast. Finally, just like I said in a previous video, I said that we'd get Halloween in the next 3 years. I thought Michael Myers would spearhead the horror homecoming that I keep talking about, and apparently it's going to be a year early, so Halloween is coming. And I said Halloween would be in a soundstage. Halloween's actually going to be in a sprung tent this year, which is really interesting. I find that extremely interesting. But if you really think about it, and you go back to the house in Hollywood, they used a tent for their Halloween house, which was even smaller than our sprung tents are. So, this can be done, and it can be done in a very claustrophobic fashion to make it known that we don't need a soundstage, a very grandiose soundstage, to make Halloween work. It's a lot better when it's a lot more close for quarters. I think that's going to be pretty awesome, to be totally honest. And Michael Myers will literally be right up in your face. You'll see a lot of very iconic imagery. And I'm pretty sure your facade is going to be the Myers house. I guess if you are looking into these pictures that have been snapped, there is a possibility that we already are having the Myers house as the facade for the maze this year. And it's going to be spectacular. Now, I want to talk about Smile. Smile is connected to the steampunk clown house that everyone's talking about, that a lot of people have been connecting to the Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Well, it sounds to me like, as of this moment, Killer Clowns is not going to happen, and we're going to get this original house, which is going to be very steampunk, very clown-heavy, and may or may not feature Jack the Clown in a cameo at the end. And I don't just mean hanging out above in the last room. I'm talking about he's going to literally be up in your face like you want him to be and don't want him to be, depending on who you are. And that's going to end the house. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. The house, apparently, maze looks like a warehouse of sorts. It's like a 2-story deal right now. It's got windows, so it's going to be interesting to see where we go with that. So it sounds like we're getting a factory that may or may not manufacture these clowns, these evil clowns. We'll find out where clowns are made. You know, if you're a parent, or even if you're not a parent, if you've heard the story from time to time, where do babies come from, and you kind of question what you want to say. When someone asks you where clowns come from, you are able to point them in the direction of the disaster cue, and that's my speculation. I think that's going to be the case. So, the pictures that we've seen so far, these pictures that have gotten out, and they showcase a familiar clown arm that is over the top of one of the walls. This clown arm is actually a prop that was utilized in Jack's Funhouse, and I find that really interesting. That's something from 2007 to be reused in a house in 2014, so 7 years later. Pretty cool. So, really interesting. And we've seen this, like, popcorn cloud. Looks like it shoots water effects, so there's probably going to be some sort of getting wet in the house, is what it sounds like. Now, if you look at the colorization on some of these pictures, you see a lot of bright colors, a lot of bright orange colors. And it makes me think, even though we've had a sprung for our 3D house for the last 2 years, and actually the last 3 years, you want to get technical, because in between was in a sprung as well, I would say that there's a possibility this could potentially be a 3D house. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, given the fact that disaster cue in the daytime is a nightmare, but I think that also could play into the fact that we're building a warehouse-style setting. It's 2 stories. Why? Because that's able to make it darker in there. Whether it's bright daylight outside, it doesn't matter, because the darkness of the enclosed space is going to make it a lot harder to be able to realize that it's daylight, and you can take advantage of all the awesome 3D effects that could take up in this house. I could be wrong on that, but I think that if we're getting a 3D house this year, that I think that this steampunk clown house is probably the right answer. So, we're going to our next one, and that is the code name that we know as Charlie. Now, Charlie has been speculated as a lot of things. Charlie meaning, talking about Charlie McPherson from Dead Exposure. And we've connected Charlie to mean a lot of things, talking about Trick or Treat. No, Charlie actually connects to another Charlie. And that Charlie is through a very famous doll by the name of Charlie McCarthy. Yeah, Edgar Bergen's Charlie McCarthy. And that also plays into another thing that has already been speculated upon via Dr. Jimmy and Cassilda Carcosa, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And yes, this house sounds like it's going to be living dolls come to life. Now, it's interesting because I asked a while back if we're going to get a sequel house. And this also comes to mind to bring up an icon that really never was, and a house that really wasn't received as well as it could have been, and that is the orphanage, and that also highlights Cindy Kane. Remember I talked about we're going to have the caretaker this year as our vinyl and our Universal Mini pin? I think that may end up tying into Cindy Kane potentially being at the event this year, but I'm not saying that for sure. Obviously, these living dolls, they could talk about maybe Annabelle or Amanda or any of the other potential possessed dolls that have been involved through pop culture and through real-life events. Obviously, the Conjuring's doll, Annabelle, is not something that was just created. It was something that was a legitimate thing. So that's your living dollhouse, and that's going to go in Sprung 1, which apparently was... Not apparently was, which is right behind The Simpsons, and that's where La Llorona was last year, so. Then, well, to me that sounds a lot like we got a really even more twisted version of It's a Small World, like the dolls come to life and attack. I don't know why no one has brought up Chucky yet, but I doubt it. It's not going to happen, especially not this year. Our next house is codenamed Ritual. And it's going to be in Soundstage 22, and to me, this is talking about potentially legendary truth and about a ritual gone wrong. And there is an image that we've seen, obviously, through Dr. Jimmy, and my friend John posted an image as well, of something hiding under the bed, and you don't know what's hiding under the bed. To me, this sounds like we're bringing up El Cucuy from Hollywood, and this will be your boogeyman house. What I think it's going to be interesting to see, this is going to be in a soundstage, because I would think that Halloween would be in a soundstage and Boogeyman would be in a sprung tent. But it makes more sense for Halloween to be in a sprung tent, but I'm not exactly sure it makes more sense for Boogeyman to be in a soundstage. I guess we'll have to wait and see what the house looks like. Maybe, like I said, may not just be El Cucuy, maybe it's El Cucuy plus all the other boogeymen throughout history. I think that could possibly be the case. Will this be our Urban Legends branded house, which I think that it's going to be? I said back in January, I think that is probably going to be the case. And it'd be interesting to see what happens with this house. Should be really interesting. Our next one is Synergy. And when I think Synergy, the kid in me comes out and says we're getting Jim and the holograms. But no. That's not synergy. Synergy means that we're basically connecting something into something else. Basically, we're promoting something that's coming out. And it's going to be literally coming out after the beginning of the event. So, synergy is equaling out to a soundstage house, which is going to be in 24 as well. And it's going to be Dracula Untold. Now, Dracula Untold has an interesting past. We're going to talk about this real quick. Dracula Untold used to be called Dracula Year Zero. Alright? Dracula Year Zero was directed by Alex Proyas, who a lot of people know. He did The Crow, he did Dark City, he did Knowing, he did iRobot. And it was going to be attached to star Sam Worthington as Vlad. Well, that fell through because they spent way too much on their budget, and they pretty much kicked Proyas off the project. Kept their writers, but they kicked Proyas off the project, and they brought in a new director to take over the project in Gary Shore. Now, Gary Shore, for those of you that don't know, and I'm sure most of you don't know because I didn't know until this, graduated from the National Film School in Dublin, Ireland in 2006. So yes, he's kind of a new boy on the block. Before this, he's basically done a lot of commercials for like Nokia and Warner Brothers, Vogue, Adidas, and he's the one that's taking over. And to take over, they obviously needed a new direction and needed a new leading star. And that ended up happening when Sam Worthington dropped out, and it's funny because Proyas actually completely dropped out to do Paradise Lost, which of course you guys know I'm a real big fan of the West Memphis 3, so yes, I was definitely supporting of that choice, but that was dropped because of budget as well. So Proyas and budget do not get along. Now, the person that took over for Sam Worthington is Luke Evans, and if you don't know who Luke Evans is, he was Apollo in Clash of the Titans. Horrible, horrible movie. He was Aramis in The Three Musketeers. Horrible, horrible movie. He was Zeus in Immortals. Horrible, horrible movie. And he ended his chain of really bad, grandiose movies by playing Owen Shaw in the last Fast and Furious 6. Yes, that's going to be the man who will be Dracula. Not exactly sure I'm sold on this. But it's okay. Cast includes Dominic Cooper. He's going to be involved as well. And it's interesting because Dr. Jimmy showed a picture of the Baba Yaga. Well, the Baba Yaga is in Dracula Untold, and it is Samantha Barks. Who Samantha Barks you would know as in her breakout role in Les Miserables. So basically, that's what we've got for Dracula Untold. The movie doesn't come out until October 17th. So it's going to be a nice little tie-in, and it sounds to me like once we get our official Maze announcement, that will come with the first trailer for the movie. And it sounds to me it's possible it's coming in July, because I have a feeling that it's going to be on The Purge Anarchy, which is a 2-for-1, because it sounds to me like we're going to get our announcement of The Purge Scare Zone and our announcement of Dracula Untold tied together with the trailers on The Purge Anarchy. That's what I think will probably end up happening. Well, obviously, if you are counting along, I have 2 more left to announce if you're believing speculation, and it sounds to me like you probably know where I'm going with this. Now, there was an announcement made on Twitter by Mike Aiello on the official Horror Nights Orlando Twitter feed that we were getting a codename of Alter. And then we heard through the grapevine that apparently Alter had to be altered because something fell through at the last minute. Well, what ended up coming out from that was we're going to turn it into an original house, which is going to be codenamed Crows. This, by the way, will be in the Parade Building, and I'll explain why in just a minute. If we go into Crows, this will play up Native American, and Croatoan, and Virginia Dare, the Lost Colony. A Thanksgiving of a very different nature, a very, kind of like a Thanksgiving like Eli Roth would direct. Thanks-killing, if you will, is something that has been bandied about by a lot of the Horror Nights speculators. So, that was going to be an original house in the Parade Building. Well, it sounds to me like it's also a possibility that Alter is back on the table. And if that's going to be the case, let's talk about what Alter is. Alter is actually something that is going to be really interesting to see it come to the event. Alter is a literal term, because this is a house that was at Halloween Horror Nights a few years ago, called Demon Cantina. And this was a love letter to a very familiar film. And that's why I'm thinking that the alterization, including Alter, is altering Demon Cantina to be its real identity. And that is telling me that Alter is From Dusk Till Dawn. And that would play up the fact that Dr. Jimmy had to put the Troublemaker Studios logo of Robert Rodriguez up on his Facebook. So that was really interesting, and that was brought up. It'd be really awesome for that to happen. Is From Dusk Till Dawn going to happen at the event? I think right now, no one knows for sure. But as of this moment, it sounds like it's going to happen. So, what do we got here? I said my predictions when I did the last video. Halloween, AVP, Walking Dead, Dracula, Steampunk Clowns, possibly, or not, featuring Jack. El Cucuy, The Boogeyman House, something involving Legendary Truth, the Fox Sisters, maybe the Warrens, the paranormal investigators that Heather likes oh so much, and some sort of a sequel house. So yeah, all that is there. I talked about, like, whispers about Silence of the Lambs, The Conjuring, The Shining, The Exorcist. So, yeah, all that stuff I speculated. Well, here's what we've got as of this moment. Let's talk about Dr. Jimmy's Cryptic Performances, and we're going to talk about Cassilda's clues. Let's talk about Cassilda's clues first. There were 14 of these Cassilda clues, and they all connect in one form or another to something else. They connect to a Dr. Jimmy performance. So, throughout the speculation process, if you have been trying to decode show tunes, or if you've been trying to decrypt really strange riddles, you're going to get the same exact answer regardless. So whether you're following Dr. Jimmy or you're following Cassilda Carcosa through Mystic Freak, then you're going to get the same answer. And that's pretty much exactly what we came to. So, Cassilda's clues, the first one being a 3-part clue which linked to Halloween through the 5/4 time signature, which is the Halloween theme, is in that actual time signature if you play it on a piano. And that's credited to the Bowling Green Philharmonic, which is really interesting because John Carpenter, the director of Halloween, grew up in Bowling Green. And that's basically how we got that way. The second one was cluing us into aliens coming to the event. Well, it sounds to me like aliens was going to be something involved at the event, and at the last minute they decided they want to change their mind, and they brought in the Versus Predator instead. So maybe aliens will show up at the event eventually, but the clue still stayed there, so it was really interesting. The third one was talking about putrefaction, and it led to the return of the Walking Dead. The fourth one was basically a laundry list, a shopping list of what led to white and green face paint, i.e. the return of Jack the Clown. Then we had the fifth one be connected to The Purge. The sixth one through Face Off, which literally took you to Face Off's website as well as Universal's website, so cluing us into that. The seventh one, very paranormal, and the Fox Sisters, Old Man Splitfoot, connect to that. The eighth one, the literal location of Sting Alley, the alley that was used in The Sting, and talking about geishas and Japanese demons and possibly the kitsune. And then we had number 9, which clued us into Angel Heart, literally Central Park, and that was voodoo and gypsies and witches in New Orleans, so that connected. And then number 10 was that put together strange picture of that Mad Max looking clown, which connects us to our steampunk clown house. Number 11 talking about maybe the Bloody Masquerade Ball. Number 12 led you to Dracula Untold. Number 13 was talking about possessed dolls, i.e. Amanda and Annabelle. And 14 was talking about a holiday between Massachusetts being the Croatoan house or Mexico being From Dusk Till Dawn. So how did Dr. Jimmy go that direction? Well, let's talk about it. Dr. Jimmy put out 13, technically 14, cryptic performances. Now, it's interesting because we heard early on that we were starting to speculate that these performances were all, at the beginning, at least, when we got started, that everything in the beginning was connected to an actual house. Looking at that list right now, we didn't get an actual house announcement, if you believe all this speculation to be correct, until Cryptic Performance number 6. That's interesting. So, excuse me, the first one would be Masquerade from the Phantom of the Opera, which was a literal masquerade, and that will be your scare zone at the Plaza of the Stars. That will be the Mask A-Raid scare zone, potentially the same one from Hollywood, or some sort of evil Victorian, creepy, like old-timey music playing, everyone dressed to the nines, very Victorian manner, and wearing potential masks, kind of like they're from Eyes Wide Shut. Now that connection makes complete sense, and all the masquerade pictures Dr. Jimmy posted makes total sense as well. The second one is fully dressed from Annie, and that connected me to The Purge, because basically it doesn't matter if you're a senator or a janitor, if you need to get it out of you, you need to be purging, and it doesn't matter who you are. So that connected to our scare zone of The Purge in New York. O Streetcars, New Orleans from The Simpsons, connected us literally to New Orleans, and that also was a nice red herring to everyone that wanted American Horror Story this year. But from what I heard, American Horror Story is going to be a lot less likely than we anticipated it to be. That Fox does not want to cooperate, and they want a little bit more extremity than Universal is willing to bend on. So, a lot more explicit nature scenes that they probably can't get away with a PG-13 horror haunt attraction. So, that's for those of you that want to really see American Horror Story and Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know, do I have to bring that possessed guy back again? I don't know, it might be. Who knows? Maybe someday. So, that also leads us to the Mikado, Gilbert and Sullivan's Three Little Maids from School, and that leads us to our Geisha Demon Scare Zone, the Kitsune, if you will, in Sting Alley. Rainbow High, which I really was not sure about, you know, actually putting on your face, I should have realized right there, we're actually talking about the Face-Off Scare Zone, and not talking about the Purge or clowns or anything like that. It was actually talking about Face-Off, and that makes total sense now I think about it. Les Miserables brought us Stars, and literally connected to Alien vs. Predator, and it's interesting because Dr. Jimmy actually said, it's nice to have a cat with you, it's scary and nasty where you can't scream, and he basically says his cat Bob is a predator, but to who? So there's always that connected to the Xenomorph versus Predator chess picture, and he knows his way in the dark, fallen flames equaling out to the flamethrower. It was sitting in front of us the whole time, we just had to put it together. All this was. Number 7 was Home from the Wiz, and it literally connected to someone who's coming home, and that is Michael Myers, bringing us to Halloween finally coming to Orlando's event this year. Number 8 was something I fought with as well, but it was pretty much proven completely now. It's actually been revealed by Dr. Jimmy himself that always look on the bright side of life via Life of Brian and Monty Python, or possibly through Spamalot if you want to connect everything through a Broadway property, is actually the return of The Walking Dead, which is the Walking Dead Road to Terminus, which is coming, whether anyone likes it or not, to be the biggest house in the history of the event. So that's going to be pretty awesome. Number 9 was Kitty Witty Winkies from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, literally from the Child Catcher, which basically leads us to El Cucuy or the Boogeyman. It was going to lead us that way regardless if we wanted to or not. Number 10 was originally Heart from Damn Yankees, which I completely went the different direction. I connected it to The Walking Dead. Heart to me is literally heart, as in you got to stake through the heart in order to kill what otherwise cannot be killed unless you have garlic or you decide you want to cut off his head. Then also that was changed to Cole Porter's I Get a Kick Out of You from Anything Goes, and basically saying I get no kick from champagne. Why? Because I don't need alcohol, because blood is my life force. So basically, yeah, that was pretty self-explanatory. We just should have paid attention to it. Number 11 was Pure Imagination, and Pure Imagination from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or the Charlotte Factory that I called it accidentally on the video because I didn't edit. And that connects me to our steampunk clown house, and possibly would be concerning Jack as well. Or, like I said, if we go the direction of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, could go in that direction as well. But I think it's going to be an original steampunk clown factory that makes evil, evil clowns. Like Jack. Number 12 was Frank Sinatra's Guys and Dolls, literally from Guys and Dolls, and we should have realized this right away. This was a living dollhouse, which connects to, of course, Charlie McCarthy, and the fact that Billy the Puppet from Saw was actually in Cabin in the Woods last year, if you paid attention. And, like I said, maybe he could possibly end up bringing in Cindy Kane in the event, and just Annabelle, Amanda, all the living dolls come to life. No Chucky, but just an original house based upon dolls coming to life. Number 13A was Food Glorious Food from Oliver, and that basically equals out to our original house. I can talk about the Indians, Virginia Dare, the Lost Colony, Croatoan, and potentially Thanksgiving, if you will. And there was also another one, A and B, basically saying that it was going to be one or the other, and the other one was Sunrise, excuse me, Sunset from Fiddler on the Roof. Literally, Sunrise, Sunset is from dusk till dawn. So yeah, should have realized that. The Camazotz statue which is basically the bat god. The statue that I saw in Dr. Jimmy's Tumblr, I thought it was connecting to The Exorcist. And I thought that that was a nice connection to The Exorcist, obviously. Through the Pazuzu. Well, it's not. The connection here is literally to From Dusk Till Dawn. Why? Because the titty twister, which I would guess is going to be the facade. And here's the reason why I think this is a good idea. If we're going to do From Dusk Till Dawn. Now, granted, this is not an event that is strictly 18 and up. No, there's alcohol served at the event, but I can vouch for this, and I'm sure a lot of you out there watching this video can as well, that if you went through the houses last year, there was probably at least one, if not more, and pretty much in my case, almost every single night I went to the event, there was a child in front of me. There are parents that do not like some of the very objectionable situations going at the event, obviously. And to have a facade that lists the literal words, the titty twister, yeah, I don't think a lot of parents would like that, so it makes perfect sense. The only way that you can see that facade, if we do end up getting From Dusk Till Dawn, would be if you were in line or headed to the parade building. Now, I guess technically you could see it if you were at one of the Sprungs, if you wanted to look backwards, but you really could, because I did that during my Unmasking the Horror tour. We literally walked, not from the Sprungs, but the Sprungs to the parade building, and vice versa. But yeah, it makes sense, because that way you can hide that facade to impressionable children that don't need to be seeing it by their parents. I can see that being a great idea. I don't know how it's going to work in the map, but yeah. You know, say, the titty twister sends you to a world of hell you have never experienced. Well, there's two bad things right there. But then again, this is not an 18 up an event, but I can see where a lot of people might be having a problem with this. And I also see that might be the reason why this has not been officially announced yet. Because I think that they're still trying to cross the T's and dot the lowercase j's. So we're getting that be the reason why. Basically, talking about the Camazots, they are basically, you know, it's kind of like the titty twister itself, which of course was on top of the Aztec temple. If you've never seen From Dusk Till Dawn, it was on top of an Aztec temple. That would make total sense. I was talking about Aztec gods, and I talked about the hero twins, and my speculation this was going to possibly go into the Chupacabra, maybe. Yeah, I said this a while back, and I was thinking, nah, that can't be right, but it's interesting that's the direction we go. So, basically that was saying 13A would get us to Croatoan, and an original house, 13B, would get us From Dusk Till Dawn. So yeah, that's what we're thinking right now. So, still, as of this moment, as of this very second, from what I'm hearing, little tweets around, and little birdies telling me that we'd look to have an IP ratio of 5:3 right now, which means that you're looking at your houses, your IPs, to be Dracula Untold, Alien vs. Predator, Halloween, From Dusk Till Dawn, excuse me. Excuse me, what a day. And you have your original houses to be El Cucuy, and possibly we have our steampunk clown house, and the last one would definitely be connecting to our living doll house. So yeah, that's what we got. Our scare zones, it sounds to me like right now we're looking at The Purge, Face Off, New Orleans Voodoo, Gypsies and Witches, oh my, Japanese geishas turning into demons in Sting Alley, and a masquerade ball of sorts, and potentially maybe some clowns, definitely the Chainsaw Drill team. And I didn't mention this in the last video because I completely forgot about it. Diagon Alley is officially announced to not be open for the event. For those of you that wanted to pay $100 to go to Halloween Horror Nights to go to Diagon Alley, where there's not going to be as many crowds, everyone's going to be in houses, or scare zones, or drinking, or shopping, or watching Bill and Ted, or Rocky Horror, yeah, that's not going to happen. Again, do I have to bring the possessed guy back again? I may have to someday. Or, if I can. I don't know if I can resurrect that guy. Maybe I can. Who knows? So, that's what we're looking at as of right now. If there's any changes, any developments, I will be more than happy to shoot you guys a video. So, that's what we got as of this moment. So, yes, as always, before we go, definitely want to shout out Dr. Jimmy. Dr. Jimmy's had some amazing cryptic performances, and it's been really awesome to try to decrypt them, and it's nice to know that I think I may finally have a hook on that. I might be wrong, potentially. I may have flipped some things, but I'm pretty positive I have a cookie in my future. At least I hope I do. Then again, who knows. But it'd be pretty cool. Either way, it'd still be awesome to be able to hang out with Dr. Jimmy again this year and actually be able to go through a house with him. I wasn't able to. I've seen him numerous times in the parks throughout the last 2 years, but I was not able to go through a house with him. Hopefully that can be rectified this year. And obviously want to throw another shout out to all my friends in the Horror Nights Updaters, and that would be my friend Jean, which is Psycho Massacre Films, my friend Vic, Dr. Emmett Brown 1, my friend Neil, UK HHN, as well as 2 updaters that I really haven't got a chance to chat with yet. Hopefully that'll be rectified soon. That's Mr. Horror Nights and Deadly Fear 1283. Also want to shout out to the Red Steel TV, is also part of the HHNU group, as well as other awesome updaters that I've been enjoying. HHN Phantom, I just watched today for the first time. Great stuff, sir. Very appreciated. Jeremy Films with a double Z, and HHN Trogdor, Admiral HHN, Mr. HHN of the Thrill Seeker Network, HHN Fan 16, and the Crazy Englishman. You're all awesome updaters. Hopefully you guys enjoy my videos as much as I enjoy yours. And definite shout out to all my friends via Facebook or Horror Nightmares or Twitter, everyone I've chatted with. Obviously Jeremy and Mystic Freak and Brian and Tim and Charles Bremer from Designing the Fear. Shoutouts to all of you. So it's been really fun during this speculatory period, and it's sad that it's almost over. But trust me, there's still more to come. Don't forget, even though what we think we know right now, we still haven't got our official reveals yet. So until we get our videos, then everything's still up in the air. So then it makes sense that's up in the air, because don't forget, George Clooney's a Gecko brother. So it makes sense for me to say that now. So that's what we got as of this moment, and it sounds to me like we're going to have a great time at the event this year, regardless. Obviously, everything's taken care of. We're waiting for the Unmasking the Horror Tour information to be announced. We do know that it's going to be the same thing as last year. You can do one tour in the morning with 3 houses, one tour in the afternoon with 3 other houses, not the same houses. You're going to be able to do 6 houses if you do the same tour for one price. I don't know why I said one price. I want to say one low price, but we'll see what the pricing situation is at. Everything seems to change about $3 to $5, so shouldn't be that big of a deal. I don't think there's going to be like a $15 jump or anything like that. Now I said that, I pretty much just like 86 any chance of that happening, but oh well. So, thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and if you haven't yet subscribed, please do subscribe here to Pop, and you can check out my Halloween Horror Nights videos, as well as all the other content here on Pop. Very wrestling heavy. We are very heavy about WWE programming, talking about Raw and SmackDown, as well as weekly videos about NXT. We're going back into TNA, so we're going to be talking about TNA Impact. We're going to be recapping all the WWE and TNA pay-per-view events. If you're not a wrestling fan, we've got something for everyone here on Pop. We have AJ's movie reviews every Friday, the current new releases as well as limited releases, and AJ will be discussing them and tell you what's worth seeing and what's worth skipping. And on Sunday, every Sunday, we do a versus video, which is basically movies versus movies to determine which one is the best. We have Ashley, our popcaster from across the pond, delivering gaming news and such from the United Kingdom, as well as videos, not on the regular, but every once in a while we have our music critic Ben, who brings us music reviews, as well as Will, who also talks a lot about Batman and various pop culture. And there's me, of course, Sir Owen Disney, and I bring you all the news from wrestling, Universal, Disney, Halloween Horror Nights, and all across the span of pop culture. So, if you like these videos, then do subscribe. If you haven't yet, go to Facebook and like our Facebook fan page. It is under Sir Owen Disney and Pop. It is facebook.com/Sir Owen Disney Pop, one word. If you haven't yet, you can add me on Facebook and ask me anything you want on that chat they have now. It is Owen Disney. It's a picture of me and Tim and Jen from Halloween Horror Nights last year outside of Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, outside the lockers there. I like that picture. It's really awesome that the Tim Tracker and the Jen Tracker are now my friends, which is awesome. And obviously, if you'd like to tweet me, it's at Sir Owen Disney. And you can tweet me questions that way, and I know a lot of you have, and I do appreciate it. Last but certainly not least, you want to send your thoughts, comments, queries, and opinions, ideas you have. If you want to talk about Horror Nights, you want to talk about Disney, Universal, you want to talk about wrestling with me, you want to ask me questions I would never answer on here in a million years due to certain situations. If you'd like to do that, or if you'd like to just say, hey, Owen, you're doing a great job, you're more than welcome to. Other than leaving a comment on this page right here, you're more than welcome to send me an email, sirowendisney@gmail.com. In the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I gotta say about that.